Afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. It is noon on Monday, and this is Job Search Live. I'm Hannah Morgan, and I'm really glad that you're here with me today. Um, when you are logged in, put a note in the chat and let me know that you're here. It'd be great to hear from you. What I'm doing now is putting the most recent Summary Sunday in the comments so that you can follow along. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me here today for Job Search Live. I'm Hannah Morgan, Career Sherpa. Good to see you. I am putting in the comments the most recent issue of Summary Sunday, in case you haven't seen it yet. It went out yesterday. And oh, by the way, if you want to get this Summary Sunday in your inbox, all you need to do is subscribe to my newsletter. There are a couple of different boxes on my website that give you the opportunity to add your email to subscribe. So if you're not getting it, you can get it. Hi, Heidi. Good to see you. Great to be here with you. So this week's Summary Sunday was about the long-term unemployed. And it is something that I know you all know a little bit about, just a little bit. But I wanted to let you know that this article should validate, help you feel like you're not alone, and everything that you're experiencing is typical. And none of that makes any sense. Like, I don't want to have to make excuses, but I want you to understand that this has been a really challenging 6, 9, 12 months, however long you've been out of work and looking for work during the pandemic. And that the challenges you face are similar to the challenges that are out there and everybody is facing. So if you don't really believe me, I'm going to try and paste something in here. Hold on. That's not it. Hold on. Did you read that article from the Harvard Business Review? I'm hoping this will copy in. Hold on. Yeah. Let me just bring this to your attention. So in this HBR article, it says currently over 4 million Americans have been out of work for 6 months or more, including an estimated 1.5 million workers in white-collar occupations. Okay, so that's 1.5 million of you. It's a lot, right? So you're not alone. There are a lot of people who have been out of work 6 months or longer. And you can do with that information what you want, right? But that is what I want you to know, that you're not alone. So that article addressed age bias, success bias. What's success bias? It's hard to find a lower level job because you've reached a certain level of success in your career. Unemployment bias, the whole bunch of biases. And so I said in my newsletter, and I want you all to know, we can't fight City Hall right now. Like, you have one priority. Your priority, I think, is to get a job. So if your primary priority is to get a job, you can do anything you want. I don't recommend that you get outraged over the fact that there is age discrimination and that the hiring process is broken and all of these things that you can't control. You can't control those things. The only thing that you can do at this moment in time, because your first priority is to get a job, is to understand what's working against you and circumvent it. Go take another route. That's what that I've been trying to help people understand. I'm not in favor of age bias or discrimination of any kind. I think it's horrible. But the reality is we can't change other people, nor can we change the process that so many people are using. We can't change that. What we can do is understand what that process is and what those biases are and work around them so they don't work against us. And then when we get our new job, we can fight whatever fight we want to fight. But your priority is to take care of you. And anger and frustration over things that you can't impact isn't helpful. So I wanted to make sure that that was the message that was coming across. Not that I am supporting the biases, but that they are wrong. But you can't, from where you sit, from where I sit, I can't make that change. You can't make that change, but you can change certain things. So I got in a lot of hot water. Oh, and hot water is not the right word. I posted a comment on LinkedIn not long ago, and it was about a poll that Andrew Seaman was running about, is there age discrimination in job search? And so I was trying to sort of flip that, and I asked the question, well, is it really age discrimination? Or are the individuals showing that they are unwilling to change or too experienced for the jobs that they are applying for, or looking for too much money for the jobs that they are applying for? I got a lot of angry responses. That's what I wanted to say. There were a lot of people that said, Hannah, you are perpetuating this problem with age bias and discrimination based on age. And that's not what I was doing. It is the fact that we can't change the individual preference of everybody that is hiring right now. And I will say, and I want to make sure people hear me say this, I'm in a lot of forums with recruiters. I follow what they're saying. I listen to what they're doing, and I listen to their podcasts and things like that, not their podcasts, but other things. And what they are saying is that a lot of them don't judge negatively the fact that you've been unemployed for 9, 12 months. They don't. They know this is a pandemic. So there's a good portion of recruiters who are not judging based on age or judging based on unemployment or saying that you're overqualified for a job. They're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. So I think that's where we have to hang our hats and where we have to be hopeful, is that there are enough people out there, good recruiters, good hiring managers, good souls, that understand this past year has been unlike anything we've ever experienced. And that anybody who is unemployed now is not unemployed because they're damaged goods, as I like to call it. They're unemployed because of a lot of factors that they had no control over. And so that's the hope and help that I want to help give you, is that this is that this isn't you. It's not about you. It's about them, and what they're looking for and what they're doing wrong, and what their hang-ups and biases are. You will find the right employer for you. That employer that is willing to look beyond the fact that you been unemployed for 9, 12 months. That employer that doesn't care that sees the value in your being overqualified for the jobs that you're applying for. That employer that is willing to give you a chance in a new industry because they see value in what you used to do. That those employers are out there, those recruiters are out there, those people are out there, and we have to have faith that that will happen for us. However, you have a lot of work to do. You unemployed job seekers, right? You have to tell the story. You have to prove that you have the skills that transfer, that have the experience that's relatable, that have the relevance to the job and employer that you are communicating with or you want to work for. That is on you, because the employer can't read your mind. They can't look at a resume and figure out what you will be in their company. That's not their role. So a lot of this falls on you. It is in every conversation you have with everybody that you know. It is connecting the dots so that they see how your past experience matches with where you want to go next. That's in LinkedIn, that's in conversations, that is talking to friends and family, right? You have to explain what you are looking for in terms that anybody can understand. That's why having a pitch that is easily understood by an 8-year-old is so important, because you want people to be able to almost play that telephone game. Remember the telephone game where one person started a message and by the end of the line of people, it was something totally different. If your message is too complicated or filled with buzzwords or people don't understand what it is, it's going to get jarbled and misinterpreted by the time it reaches the end of the line. So it's up to you to make sure that your message is clear, concise, understandable. And so that is where you can take control of a lot of this. So I want you to go back. So that was my long, sorry, but I wanted to make sure I gave you that hope. Please go read that article, because I want you to know that you're not alone, right? And that there are problems with the system, but we can't fight all those problems. What we can do is make sure that our message is clear and positive, and that we can't get angry about the fact that we're being ghosted. Like, what good does that do? You're not hearing back. It's rude. It's unprofessional. It's all of that stuff. But we can't make somebody respond to us. Either they're going to or they're not going to. And whether or not they do has nothing to do with you. That's their set of values and priorities. It has nothing to do with you. Is it rude? Yes. But it's not about you. It's about them and their workload and what they've been trained to do. So we've got to be just moving forward and take control of what we can take control of. And one of the things that was in the HBR article was about how difficult it is to network after you've been doing this for so long. You're embarrassed. It's hard to have those conversations, right? And so I'm overly sensitive right now to telling people, oh, just go network, have conversations. But I did post something by Don Graham, The Hardest Part of Job Search and the Secret to Getting Beyond It. And guess what that is? It's networking. And so as I say this today, after everything that I've read about how challenging networking is for people who are long-term unemployed, let me go back and say, okay, so if networking is uncomfortable, what is it in your head that is making it uncomfortable for you? Is it the fact that you're embarrassed? Is it the fact that you don't know what to say to somebody to explain the fact that you're so unaware? That stuff's all in your head, right? So I think what I know is that the people in your immediate circle of friends and family want to help. Keep in touch with them. They may or may not be as judgmental. So, and they can help carry your message forward. Think about your colleagues that you used to work with. You may even share that article with them. Hey, I just came across this article which summarizes so much of what I've been experiencing over the past year. I wanted to let you know that I'm still looking for a new job as a whatchamacallit or a whatchamacallit using these skills, A, B, C. And if you come across anything or there's anybody that you think I should speak with, please let me know, right? There you go. Whether or not they respond is one thing, right? But you've done your part to make sure that your message is still out there, because this is what I know. After a period of time, people forget, or they lost sight of the fact that you might be out of work. I'm seeing every day more and more jobs being posted on LinkedIn that are showing up in my feed because people who work for companies are sharing their openings. And I hope you're seeing that too. What that means is right now is a really good time to touch base with those people that you're embarrassed to touch base with. Bite the bullet. You can do it. Reach out to them and listen to Dawn's wonderful video about networking and how to do it in a way that might make it more comfortable for you. The other thing that I thought was very timely and very relevant is the fact that you're going to be asked questions about your experience during the pandemic. Some of them are appropriate, some of them you may choose not to answer. But you also want to have questions that you want to ask during an interview to understand how that employer has handled the pandemic and what they see moving forward. So there was a really helpful article on Career Contessa that had 10 pandemic interview questions and a list of questions that you can also ask. So that's where that interviewing stuff and being ready to handle that question about what have you been doing during the pandemic, you need to have an answer for that question because they're going to want to know the answer. Okay, so let me come back and check in the chat here and see what's going on. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Hey, Colleen, glad to see you. Um, Hi, Louis. Yes, it's been said many times, many ways. It's how we deal with the situation that defines us, not other people's opinion. Yes, right? And so we can say that, but we have to truly believe it. Yes, Wanda, you are employable. Every single one here, every one of those 1.5 million people or 4 million people are employable. And so we just have to keep doing what we're doing, as hard as that is. Um, so you want to see the link again to the video? So Wanda, the link to my Summary Sunday is in that very first post. I will post that again, which has all of the links to what I've shared. So here is the link to Summary Sunday. So Michael, you're asking this question, and let me, would it be beneficial to focus on what might be concerning for the interviewer? Um, I, um, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but this is what I know. Going into an interview, if you've thought about what the employer's concerns are, you can pretty much identify what those are. Are you overqualified? Are you underqualified? Do you lack certain skills? Do you lack the industry experience? You don't need to have them tell you that because you can look at the job description and see, and you have your own opinion. You thought about that before you applied to the job. So your job is to say to yourself, not to the interviewer, these are the things that I've got that make me relevant and qualified for this job, and I'm going to debunk any myth they may have. So if you think you are overqualified, then your job in giving an answer is to explain why you are looking for a job with their company that is not as senior as you used to hold. And you would do that without being asked that question because you know that's one of the objections in the back of their head. You don't need to have them tell you that's one of the objections because I'm not even sure they would tell you, but you've got to figure, oh, I've got 20 years of experience and this job is only looking for 5. They're going to think I'm overqualified. What can I say to them to help them understand that at this point in my career, working at this level is something that would bring me more satisfaction? And I would still add value to their company, and that I acknowledge the fact that I'm more expensive than what this job is requiring, and I'm okay taking a lesser salary if that was really the case. Because if they're asking for somebody with just 5 years of experience and you've got 20, they should not have to pay you for your 20 years of experience to do a job that requires 5. If I need a computer that's got 1 meg of RAM, right? I don't want to pay for a computer that has 30 megs of RAM. Otherwise, I would have bought a 30 megs of RAM computer. So that's the closest I can give you. They're paying for what they need. And that's dangerous. I understand that because, and that's something that we all need to think about if we're applying for a job that is not as senior or as intricate or complicated as what we've what we used to do is we're not going to make the same amount of money. But if you're okay with that, then you have to let the employer know why you're okay with that. And I hope that answers your question. Michael, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so back to the summary Sunday. So, those interview questions when working remotely, how do you manage your day? Here's the thing. You have not, if you have never had to work remotely, you don't say, well, I've never had to work remotely, because guess what that does? That positions you as somebody who's not qualified to do remote work. So what you would say is, during COVID and my job search, I managed my own time and worked remotely to manage my schedule to da 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 da. You don't say I've never worked remotely, because then you are not qualified to work remotely. You've got to help them understand, connect the dots about how your job search remotely is working remotely. You had to schedule meetings. You had to follow up with employers and people that you were going to be networking with. You had to manage your schedule and your day with all the different priorities that you had going on. So your job is to explain how your job search and working remotely is exactly like it would be working remotely in a job. Anyway, so those are some of the questions. I also threw in my Summary Sunday 51 behavioral interview questions and answers. That was an article that I wrote last week, and I hope you saw it. Behavioral interviewing is a thing. We know that. You are asked in an interview, give me an example of a time when. Tell me about a time when, right? That's the lead in. They don't want to hear a generic answer like, well, typically when this happens, this is, analyze the situation and make the fix and it's done. That's not how to answer a behavioral based question. They want a very specific example of a time where you had to do that. And if you look at some of the sample answers that I gave, those are the type of answers that you want to give. And in order to do that, in order to answer these questions in an interview, you need to have a repertoire, a collection of stories that are going to be relevant and important to the kind of job that you're interviewing for, which means you've got to plan those stories before you go to the interview. And if you look at the job posting, that tells you everything you need to know. Here's how I recommend preparing for an interview. Look through each line of the job responsibilities. One of the responsibilities may read, must be able to give presentations to diverse audiences. Okay, so that means I'm going to ask myself, was there a time where I ever had to give a presentation to a diverse audience? Oh, yes, there was. Okay, that's one of the stories I'm going to be prepared to tell in the interview. And I'm going to use the STAR format, STAR, situation, task, action, result. All of that is defined in that article, so that I give the most complete accurate and concise answer possible. It's really, really hard to answer behavioral based interview questions if you haven't thought about what stories you're going to use before you go into the interview. So that's why you want to have those pre-planned as much as possible going into an interview. You might still be asked for a question that you don't have an exact answer to. Chances are you can use one of your stories and make it fit. So that's that. Oh, so Wanda, that question is a situational question. It's not behavioral, it's situational. And so, what would you do if you knew an employee was stealing from the company? And so, if you have ever been exposed to that happening in a company, you could say, well, in my last company, this is how our company handled it. They and use the situation. The situation was the employee was stealing. The task was to find a way to appropriately treat, what's the word I'm looking for? Appropriately address the situation. So the company did this, 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 and this. And as a result, the employee was terminated and the material was returned and nobody ever did it again. You may not have an exact situation, but it's always best to use a previous experience rather than a hypothetical, this is how I would do it, to base that off of your frame of reference, because people can't blame you for the way you did something in your past company. What they can say is, ooh, that's not the way we would do it here. And so you can start your answer by saying, at my last company, when I had a similar situation, this is how I, based on company policy, I was instructed to handle it, star, right? But they can't fault you. they can't necessarily fault you for following company policy and procedure, right? If their policies or procedures are different in their company, then what your steps were would be different. So the point that I'm trying to make is that you, by talking about how you would handle something in the future, are saying, okay, I've got to follow instructions, so I don't know what those instructions are with your company, so the best I can do is base it off of previous experience. But your answer might also include something like, well, since I never technically had to deal with that before, I would talk to my manager and see how they would want that handled, because that's not something I'm familiar with, if you've never truly had to deal with it before. I hope that sort of helps, Wanda. That's a tricky one. If you Google situational interview questions, you can find probably some good answers to that as well. The article that was next was remote work, 4 essential soft skills you need for remote work. And that was from, some of you may know Byron Clark, but he was interviewed for this article, and he outlined the 4 soft skills that you need to demonstrate for remote work: communication, self-management, self-advocacy, and that last one, I'm missing it. Advocacy, communication, self-management. I guess that's 3 that I got. You'll read the whole article. I'm sure there are 4. Anyway, when we're talking about remote work, it's not going away. We're going to probably be in have opportunities to work in some sort of a hybrid environment. So we need to make sure that we're addressing some of the soft skills that would show that we are successful in being a remote worker, working independently. So that's where that article is helpful and might help you develop some stories to tell that back up some of those soft skills. The next article is why being likable can be a remarkable life skill. I've always said this. It goes back to, what you're talking about in an interview. The first and foremost, the most important thing that you can do in the interview is to show that you're likable. So if you read that article, you'll understand a little bit more about why, from a scientific research standpoint, likability is important. You could be the most qualified, have the best resume, right degrees, but if you're not likable, chances are slim that you would get the job. And again, that sounds wrong and discriminatory, but imagine you're the boss. You want to be able to easily manage people who you hire. And so likability is important. Develop those likability skills. The very last article was by Charlene Laube of HR Bartender, and it was part 5 of her self-management series. So we go up a couple of steps and remember that self-management was one of those skills that is important to show if you're a remote worker. So this self-management series was about learning how to learn. Lifelong learning is incredibly important today. It's not just the act of learning, it's taking what you've learned and applying it to new situations. And so she talks about some of the different ways employees can learn and knowing how you learn best. So those were the articles that were in this week's Summary Sunday. It was real, there are some really challenging circumstances going on right now. And I want to make sure that you all don't beat yourself up, that you realize that this is a circumstance beyond your control. And the best you can do is take control over those things that you are doing. The messages you're sending, being proactive in your job search by targeting companies that you want to work for, having conversations with people inside those companies where you want to work. So there you go. Yeah. Okay, so I went a little bit longer this week than normal. I hope you all have a really, really wonderful week. Oh, tomorrow, I'm having a free webinar, Laid Off and Looking. If you haven't Let me see if I can get that real quick. If you haven't already been through it, because it's the same workshop that I offered before, if you haven't already attended the Laid Off and Looking, it's a free webinar that I'm offering tomorrow. And let me just put this link right in here so that you can sign up if you haven't already. It's at noon tomorrow. Laid Off and Looking. If you want to sign up to attend that, you're more than welcome to attend that. Oh, not going. It's spinning. There it is. Okay. So you all make it a great week. Take care of you. Do stuff that is good for you. Where I am in upstate New York, the sun is shining. It's sort of a warmer day. Spring is definitely here and in the air. So happy spring, everybody. Make it a good one. Talk to you later.